Just normal.
Yes. Yeah.
Very good. I try to put it in
All right. Right. Yeah.
We're trying to start
That's all right. I'll just pretend I'm banging on my gavel. They didn't bring me my hammer. Okay, let's call it into order at 6 p.m. Everyone is here but Billy, and he told us he would be absent, so we do have a quorum. Rusty, do you want to lead us in prayer?
Father, we come to you tonight and ask for thy guidance, ask for thy mercy, help us to make the right decisions here tonight for our kids and our staff, administration. Pray that you be with everyone as they're out for school and traveling over the summertime. Keep them all safe and bring them back to us this coming school year. Pray that you would forgive us for our sins against thee. These things we ask in Jesus' name.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
honor
From the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thanks for everybody for coming. I'd like to see the faces out there. Even if your parents made you come, we appreciate it. Okay. And on open forum, we're going to start that at 6:02. Or well, let's do we want to do the ESSA first, or do we want to do just open forum first? Does it matter to y'all? Okay, then let's not, we'll just do open forum, then we'll start it on the ESSA. Okay, Tracy, did you want to speak to the board
Yes,
about?
please. Do I need to go anywhere, or can I stay right here?
You can stay right there. The only rules are you have 3 minutes, and you talk to me, I can talk to you back,
Okay.
but everybody can listen.
Okay. Sounds good. Well, I'm here tonight as a former homeschool mom. We were a homeschool family for 5 years, and we went into it knowing that Texas didn't allow our children to participate in UIL activities, but we believed the state would pass a law that would allow them to compete. It didn't happen in time for us, but there are other families in our school district right now and that will be in our school district that have waited for this law to pass. So we need to clear up a couple of misconceptions and omissions about the bill tonight. The UIL policy was amended to reflect that homeschool students are not that are participating in UIL activities would not have to meet the attendance requirements that the public school students are meeting, so coaches aren't keeping track of that. The UIL policy also was also amended to indicate that the parent or legal guardian of the student would have to present written verification that the student was passing all courses being taught. This is not the job of the coach, this is the job of the parent. This is the job of the person who's teaching them. My recommendation would be that the board just pass something that says if you fail to turn in your written verification, then you fail for the 6 weeks. Number 3, the UIL policy indicates that if a student withdraws from public school, they are not allowed to participate as a homeschool student for the remainder of that school year, regardless of where they go. Number 4, it costs approximately $750 to $1,300 for one student to homeschool, so it's not a decision to take lightly. It is a full-time job, and the majority of the families in our school district cannot afford for one parent to stay home to teach their children. Also, whenever all the kids were sent home at the beginning of 2020 because of COVID, everyone was praising the teachers and offering support because they couldn't handle teaching their kids at home. Number 5, redistricting and reclassification has not been addressed by UIL. I looked all over UIL's website today. There's going to be an ad hoc committee to address this sometime in October. I was unable to find anything from them that stated there would be an automatic redistricting or reclassification for any district opting to participate. Regardless, a committee is going to meet in October, which means they couldn't make changes to the policy this school year. Those changes would have to come next school year, which means y'all could revisit it next summer if you needed to. Number 6, the district can require a fee from homeschool students in order to participate. If the homeschool people want their kids to play sports now or attend art classes, they have to pay for it out of pocket. If they're willing to do that for their young children, I'm sure they're willing to do it for their older children as well, just to get to play. And finally, allowing homeschool students to participate does not mean that your district will lose money because they were never your money to begin with. A statement was made at the last school board meeting that if a coach wanted to know who was going to be eligible to play, he should, quote, get them in school, end quote. Might I suggest you allow this bill to play out and build a relationship with the homeschool community? Because right now, as it stands, they can't pick what school they want to play for. But students in your district can. They can transfer out. At some point, these parents might have to make changes to their plans, and they might have to pick a school to go to, and you might not be at the top of their list. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and okay, Fred, I'm guessing you did not want to talk in open forum yet?
I
No?
did not.
Yeah, okay, I didn't think so. I'm just
Sorry.
double checking. Okay, so let's open the public forum at 6:06. And this is for questions or discussion from the public in regards to the ESSA, Title I, Title II, and Title IV funds. So we can entertain any type of questions or discussion.
Let me just briefly describe what we use our Title I, Title II, and Title IV funds for. Right now we have one campus, the elementary campus, that is a campus-wide campus. That means that you can use your title money for any student at that campus, regardless of whether they are a low-income student or not. If it wasn't campus-wide, you could only use the money for the specific subgroup population that was low income. So all of our title money goes to our elementary school. Title I money we use for a reading interventionist and to pay a portion of the salary of one of our non-special ed aides. Our Title II money goes to pay the other portion of the salary of that non-special ed aide. And then our Title IV money pays for a good portion of the Pathblazer program that we use for the students. So that is what we use our title money for. There is a meeting that will be at they have meetings at the beginning of the year, I believe at the end of the year. They have several meetings at the elementary that give you far more information about the title funds. We are just required to have a public forum, so if there's any questions from the board or the public about these title funds.
I'll add to what Mr. Hines said, in the fact that our elementary school is our only Title I campus. So that's why it's held, the meetings are held there. They're the only ones.
Does anybody have any questions or discussion? Okay, we're going to close it at 6:08. And we will start our regular meeting. And Mr. Mack, the first thing on the agenda?
Okay, on the agenda, you have one item on your regular agenda, consideration and possible action on House Bill 547. Thank you for your comments, very, very well spoken. I do have a few updates. I received an email today from Dr. Harrison. He is the Associate Director of the UIL. And in regards to school districts moving up in reclassification, that's been talk at the UIL. It's not been necessarily a rule. Today, what was released about the ad hoc committee is, we're getting attacked up here, but is the fact that they could place an automatic 20% enrollment penalty on school districts which is better. I mean, it's better than an automatic move up, but if you use Fritch for an example, and we have 200 students at the high school, if one of those students is a homeschool student, then we would have to turn in 240 enrollment. So one student could cost us 40 kids. What that could do is schools that are on that line, and I don't remember, do you remember the cutoff for 3A?
219
219, 220?
last time.
So that 40 would put us up into 3A, you know, because of the 20% penalty. So that came today. It's public email. If anybody wants a copy of that, we could sure get you that. A couple of things also that was released, and these are off the UIL website. You can pull these off. It's not a UIL decision on administering a standardized test to make sure that homeschool students are eligible for the first 6 weeks. However, it does have to be a nationally recognized, which would be an ITBS, the Iowa test, the Stanford Achievement Test, California Achievement Test, or Comprehensive Test of Basic Skills. And if you notice there, the STAR is not on there because STAR is not national. The school districts can accept or shall accept assessment results administered or reported by a third party, which could be a parent. When you speak on attendance, correct. Attendance cannot be held on a homeschool student with the exception of a coach or coaches can hold the student in lieu of attendance for the athletic period. So they can be required to attend under the athletic period. Again, that's not a UIL decision, but what that falls under is Texas Education Code and policies that one of them is responsibility, and that would be a responsibility of a kid being in athletics. Can they participate in both UIL basketball or homeschool basketball? It could be UIL football, anything UIL basketball. We cannot compete in both, but you can compete in both if they're not a school function. For example, a student cannot participate as both a homeschool student and a UIL student in a tournament, for example. He can't play on two teams. However, he can play basketball for the school and play basketball for a homeschool in the summer when there's not competitive. It's not competitive. Also, they have to follow code of conduct violations while participating under standards of behavior. And, just want to touch base on that. And I agree with you wholeheartedly that you know, we work with all students, whether homeschool, private school, or public school. My personal issue with the program is the fact that the law is written for only homeschool, and as stated last board meeting, a private school student does not have the same option as a homeschool student. And in my opinion of UIL, or not UIL, but of the state, if to allow one in, they should allow all in. And so by allowing one in, we're still telling private school students they cannot attend. And with that would be, you know, based on my conversation with my administration, my coaching staff, I would make a recommendation that you either take no action, which will serve as a non-participation vote, or if someone would like to take action, my recommendation is to not allow participation in UIL activities by homeschool students.
Okay. Oh, okay. Since we have the AD here, would you like to?
I've been waiting for 4 years to have this speech. So I want you to know that going into it, I'm probably going to upset a lot of people. But I'm also probably going to have some people that are like agreeing with me. But I want you to know that I'm not here to judge parents for deciding to homeschool their kids because they feel like that's what's best for their situation. That's their decision. I full-heartedly respect that, and I'm not going to ever look down on them. They're the parent. In fact, I wish I had more parents that were more involved like that. However, if you notice behind me, that probably should be in front of me, my family's here. When I moved to Fritch, I wanted to raise my kids in a small community like I grew up in so they'd have the opportunities like everybody else, like what I grew up with. I didn't want to raise them in Amarillo, so we chose Fritch. We chose them. And as reciprocal, y'all chose us. Since that day, I've challenged my family because whenever I signed on the dotted line, we had an obligation and a responsibility, not rights and privileges, not rights and privileges on what's best for us, but we wanted to raise our kids here. We knew that there were better options out there. We had other job offers. We chose Fritch. I wanted to make this place better, and I still do. And guess what? These two boys are going to graduate these halls, go through every teacher that we have up here, and they're going to graduate Eagles proud. And when they graduate, I'm going to ask them, is this place better now than when you got it? Because they have an obligation and responsibility too. And I'm telling you, the reason I'm passionate about this is because I came in here and I'm all in. My family's all in. I'm not going to come in here and say, my family's here, they deserve turf. My family's here, they deserve anything. I'm going to say that my family's going to work to tail off, treat people right, do the right thing, and make this place the best place that they could ever be. And guess what? They'll feel more proud about accomplishing that than anything. So my position is, I'm here to serve. I'm here to serve y'all, I'm here to serve this community, and I'm here to serve our kids, number one, our kids. And so, this is the whole deal is behind that. Like, if anybody wants to take their kids and homeschool them and they feel like that's the best way they can serve the kids, get it. But whenever they want that homeschool kid to participate in public ed, number one, it's basically sending the message to me, because I'm also teaching math, that I'm good enough to coach them, but I'm not good enough to teach. That's the message I get. And it may not be the right message, but that's what I get. But I'm all in. I'm going to be an eagle until, guess what? God says I'm not going to be an eagle. I'm going to do my best, and I guarantee you, we're going to put a product out there in everything we do this year, and the kids are going to be proud of where they went to school. They're going to go to the restaurant with an Eagle jersey on because they're a Sanford-Fritch Eagle. And we, as a group, are going to make this place great. As a group, we're going to make it great. I can't do it alone. They can't either, but guess what? They've got an obligation, responsibility to do their part. And so do I. Now, when you apply that to this right here, I don't have a problem at all selling myself and the program that these kids are going to go through me, because I'm going to treat them fair, love them unconditionally, make them work hard, do the right thing, and be proud of where they go to school. I can't promise anything else. But if they want to go to other schools, we came here from another school. We felt like Fritch was the best for us. But we came here with a mindset of obligation and responsibility to what we're getting into. Not the lake is handy, not anything else. I'm all in. My family is all in. And God willing, we're going to make this place great. And I promise you, we're going to walk through these halls, and everybody that goes through here is going to be proud to do it. And guess what? There's going to be good teachers, bad, possibly bad teachers. Teachers that are better than others. There's teachers that are better than me. But that's part of their educational process, and they're going to go through every one of them. They're going to go through every one of them, and they're probably going to struggle in some, and they're going to be really successful in some others. But as a group, as a collective group, and with the good Lord leading us, we're going to make this place great. But it's not going to be with the mindset of what's in it for me. My kids know that when they walk in the door, it's not, look at me, here I am, it's their yard, how can I help you? I challenge you to have that mindset when you vote on this. I'm not saying that we need to just sit there and say, well, they're homeschooled and pawn them off. No. Let them come meet me. Let them come see what we're doing. The door's open. I've had kids come up to strength and conditioning this summer. I have no clue who they are. Some of them are from Minnesota. I've like, who are these kids? I've shook their hand. We've got one kid that's fixing to transfer here. Just talked to the parent from Panhandle. They live in Panhandle District. We've got another kid, just talked to the parent today, that's going to come from Bourne. And so, as I'm not gonna fault anybody for doing what's best for their kid. But I'm telling you, whenever you decided to go with me, this is what you got. This is what you got. And I just know this, I love your kid more than anything regardless, and I don't hold grudges. Ever. Ever, 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 ever. And it don't matter if you play football, basketball, golf, tiddlywinks. We're gonna do it to the best of our ability, and I'll love you no matter what you do. So all I can offer is what I'm doing, but when we open the door for this, whenever I've called every other school in this area, and they're not gonna do it, to me, you open the possibility for, number one, the district to possibly lose money because we're funded on ADA. But you also, in my opinion, have the possibility to move up a classification. You have the possibility for the unknown because who knows what UIL is going to do. I didn't think they'd pawn it off on the local school district. TEA needs to make a stand on this. And then we're dealt with it, but they put it on us. And my biggest issue behind all of it is I don't think that if whatever's going to happen is going to happen this first year. Realignment is a 2-year sentence. It's a 2-year sentence. And I'm not saying that I'm afraid of those guys. Bring them. We want to play Canadian football? Come on. I'm telling you, let's go. That has nothing to do with it, in my opinion. It really doesn't. But I'm just telling you, that's what you hired when you hired the Wiggins family. Them 2 boys are going to graduate Eagles, and one day, just like y'all, they're going to be proud of it. They're going to wear their jerseys around and say, guess what? We got this ball rolling. What an accomplishment. Any other questions?
No, thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
I just got a little comment that, and I said at the last board meeting that my biggest concern about all of this was they're not reconvening until October. And so we're going to walk in blind. And I've said it before that I never want to make decisions with minimal amount of information. And that's how I feel about this. I'm not saying one way or another. I just feel like I don't have enough information to just go ahead and sign off and be the guinea pig and preach it. I don't think that's responsible on my part personally. But that's my biggest concern about it. And I'll just leave it at that.
I did call Elza on the fee assessment because I felt like the money came of it. We can't charge any private school or any homeschool student that's wanting to attend and play football a different fee than what we would charge the general ed. It specifically says that they're subject to any fee. Like in Houston, they charge $485 for something like $400 kid to play football at Katy. We couldn't charge more or less than that if that's what we charged for a homeschool kid to play. So whatever fees we assess our kids, they're subject to those same fees, but we don't charge our kids. That's about it.
I do want to touch on what Doug said about, and Mr. Bidwell as well, about reconvening in October. As I sit on the Legislative Council, I'm not on the ad hoc committee, but that is also the same month as realignment. That's when we take our snapshot, is the last Friday of October. So the unfortunate thing about timing, Doug, and what you're saying is they're going to make a decision right before they pull numbers for realignment, and that's not fair to anybody. That's not fair to you as a board member. It's not fair to you as a parent. It's not fair to us as a school district to make decisions that are going to be made in a couple of weeks. So, I, like Mr. Wiggins, have made a 17-year commitment to this district as well, and I went to a private school for 2 years, me and Mr. Hine both, at St. Anthony's. And, I stay with my recommendation of no action or to not allow participation.
And just to be real clear on what I said, that's not the only determination just of the classification. It's that we don't know what they're going to throw at us. So I just want to be clear on that.
That will come often in your career as a school board member from the legislature.
Yes, they change stuff today, they'll change stuff tomorrow. Okay.
Yeah, so, I know the big focus is on sports in this, but I do feel like we're gonna miss out, or not us miss out, but the kids are gonna miss out a bunch on the academic side of things. As far as UIL participation goes, band, all the other UIL activities. But then there again, we still don't know.
Well, it doesn't, I mean, obviously classification affects band because it's competitive by nature. But, the thing about, the sport or the non-athletic UIL events, they fall under a little bit different set of rules in regards to, there's not varsity, there's a varsity level only, there's not a sub-varsity level, where kids could play. We discussed that last week or so, but, and then also, there's no PAP, no previous athletic participation forms. Those will be required for homeschool athletes, but not required for homeschool academics or fine arts, but they're not required for in-school academics or fine arts either, so there is some differences a little bit, but I do appreciate you coming.
I mean, I think it's worth revisiting down the road when we have more information, but it's hard to make a decision when we've got minimal information and UIL says it's on you, make the decision. We may come back later and make you regret it, but a lot of different parts.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
I'm sorry, can I say something? I don't know if that's allowed.
Well, it's, not really since it's not open forum. So, the main thing is the board just needs to discuss it and either make a motion or we'll just make no motion. Is there anybody else on the board that has a comment, or do you want to make a motion, or do you want to just no motion? Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to call for a motion, and if nobody talks, then that's my answer. So, do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion to not allow participation in UIL activities by homeschool students for it'll be just the 2021, 2022.
It's yearly. Yes, that's correct. And you can change it mid-year. And let me turn my mic on. Sorry. For example, if you get a second and this passes that we do not allow them, but you come back in October and change it, then they can compete, but only at the sub-varsity level for that year.
Okay, so I have a motion. Do I have a second?
How would that work with like the band, or not band, but the other academic?
They would compete at the varsity level. It's only activities that have a sub-varsity. It won't affect junior high. For example, an 8th grade homeschool student will still compete on the 8th grade team. He wouldn't move to the 7th grade. So, good question.
Okay, so I have a first. Do I have a second? Okay, a second from Rusty. Okay, all in favor? Okay, opposed? Abstain? Okay. All right, so motion carries. Okay, so now we have a report from the superintendent.
The first thing I have for you is just a unofficial copy as it changes. Mr. Garrison can attest that this changes often. This is the professional development calendar, and the reason why we wanted to get this out in front of you, we do every year, but just to kind of get you online that school is not far away. Our administrators report on the 26th, which is a week from today. And then all campus offices will be open from 8 to 4 beginning on Monday through next Friday. We do have new student enrollment. That means new students to the district enrollment on those 3 days there, August 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. We have Meet the Eagles, 6 o'clock, right?
Yes, sir.
And that's everybody, band, cheerleaders, everything.
I need to get a hold of Miss Marshall at the elementary. PT, and everybody that wants to come out here and have fun with this.
We'll recognize you. Okay. And then teachers and staff begin on the 9th. The district breakfast, just to let you know, as board members, you're always invited. If you'd like to speak, let me know. The district breakfast begins at 8 o'clock on the 10th. The first day of school is the 17th, and then of course we have our first football scrimmage on the 19th. So we'll get this out pretty quickly to the staff, and you'll receive a copy in your email. So kind of keep an eye on it. Some of these dates may change. Any questions in regards to the professional development calendar?
For the board members, usually any of the new staff and board, we usually have a dinner with the new staff so we can kind of put a face to a name and meet the new people that we've hired. So right now it's kind of tentatively scheduled on the 9th for a lunch or dinner. Sometimes we have it like if there's a football game or a scrimmage, but if we want to do it before school starts, then we would need to do it maybe on the 9th.
Let me add to that, and the reason I did put it on the 9th and I put lunch, dinner, and a question mark is it could even be just a social or so. They're going to be busy from 8 to 4, and some of the people we hire don't live here. And so they have to hang around for a couple hours for a dinner instead of, and sometimes we lose them because they go home and don't come back. So I would ask the board to consider that as well. We could do something at 4 and not, we could have hors d'oeuvres and drinks and things where you guys, and I know you guys may not be able to get off either, but it's hard to make everybody's schedules work. So I'll turn it back over to Stacy. If you guys decide what you want to do, we'll make it work.
Sometimes we've done it like we have our budget workshop, our regular meeting and our budget workshop on the 10th, and that's at 6 o'clock. So we might can even come an hour earlier if anybody, if the board can be here, and have them do it before, we could do it before that. We've done that before the board meeting so that we're not having to ask off, early 2 days or,
Yeah.
You want to do it the 10th? Can y'all be here a little earlier? So what, maybe 4:30? That'd give us an hour and a half maybe with them? Does that sound good? I mean, you could come after if you couldn't get off at 4:30, but can we kind of maybe schedule it for 4:30 and just have snacks or something? Does that sound good? All right, let's do that.
Okay.
On the 10th.
I told you this calendar would change.
Yep. Okay, that'll be great. I like to put a face to the name of the new people. Not that I'll remember it later, but at least for one day.
The second item I have in my report is a probable cost worksheet. You have one in front of you. If you are, like, I had to pick Mr. Hine up off the floor today when we got this, and we were both kind of in shock. We have talked to Richard, our architect, as well, in the fact that a lot of the stuff that is in phase 2 and phase 3, for example, the tile, the grids, the cabinets, the flooring, all of that will remain. Just, we're leaving the flooring and the tile and grids in phase 1 as well. But when you take out the flooring, cabinets, and tile and grids of phase 2 and 3, you save about $500,000 right there. When you look at phase 4, again, you take out new flooring, that's about $50,000. So we're at $550,000 cut there. Take out the flooring of the cafeteria is another 50 or maybe a little less there. We don't have exact numbers yet. These are numbers, to kind of give you an idea of whether or not you want to move forward with the bond. And obviously we can't get $6 million. $5 million is the maximum number of a bond that we feel is safe for the district. It still gives you some pennies to play with in regards to your $1.50 cap, but we need to make some calls and get some counsel set up to for the bond. And so we were able to kind of just talk to him a little bit and look through here and get it down to probably around $4 million, 1.25 million maybe. You know, it's kind of the numbers that we kind of play with. So we have to, and that's taking out the high school administration and library corridor, taking out the high school locker room renovation, and taking out the high school restroom renovations. It does leave the band hall in there, and we think that that number is somewhat inflated. So if you're kind of wondering what the cost is, analysis of this, Phase 2 is $90 a square foot. That includes the flooring, cabinets, and grid, so that number will come down to about $60. Phase 4 is $60 a square foot. That number will come down to about $55. The gym is $20 a square foot for paint. The cafeteria is at $75, but that number should come down to take out the floor, probably around $65. Phase 5 is, oh, we took it out as well. Phase 5 is to redo all the bathrooms at the elementary. You know, that's $500,000. That's $225 a square foot. So, you know, therein lies the number there is how much more a bathroom or kitchen costs to put in.
So 4,000 asbestos abatements.
If we have any asbestos abatement, that's just put in there.
Which we do not.
We do not in any building with the exception
I
of
hope
Champs.
it just won't be done.
No, we do not.
Champs is the only building that has any asbestos.
Yeah.
So it's $116,000 to paint the gym?
Well, according to the architect, it is. Now that's ceiling, walls, everything, you know.
Is that just painting the ceilings or new ceilings?
And that's new painting in walls and ceilings. 116,000. I agree.
Looks like a
I agree.
60 by 40 shop that's $50,000, but the guy listed it
Well,
$250,000.
Well,
on the
that's-
shop, there are some other rules that we, as a school district, have to obey that a person out in the community can't. And it adds expense. We have to have an engineer, we have to have an architect. It's required by law. So, like last time when I told you guys the cost of a shop, you're like going, oh yeah, that's not right. Well, actually, for a school it is, just because of the way we have to do it. We're required by law. We can't just go buy a Mueller building and put it up. We have to. Now, I think it's a little high too, but it's just we have to go through these steps that is required by law.
Does that price include the engineer?
Yes.
Then how come we get charged $300,000 engineering down here?
Well, I don't know if it does include it because it's.
I would think on the building.
It may. Now, you have to understand, this came in today, just kind of as a, I mean, we've asked you, we called it, once we got this, to cut. You got to cut. And we're questioning some of these costs as well.
Right.
So these aren't our costs. It's not something we've made up or dreamed up. So we are working with him currently, and you have to understand that other than phase 1, everything on here would be phase 2 or extra, which is going to require an RFP and open for bids for new contractors, new this, new that. We just wanted to make sure and get a probable cost to get an understanding of where we're going to go if you choose to go out for a bond, because that decision has to be made by August 16th.
Well, I mean, we have to start the ball rolling a lot
Yeah.
sooner than that. I need to know tonight, really, if we want to move forward. Now, let me go over the process. So, if some of you remember who've done it before, this isn't the actual list. We still have until November. Actually, we still have until we get the money. You know, if we go out and we tell the public that, hey, we're going to spend it on X, Y, and Z, we do have to spend it on X, Y, and Z. But say we're going to do this list and material cost comes down significantly, as long as it still fits within the stated purpose of the bond, we can add additional projects later on if this cost estimate assumes to be high. And anytime even before the election, we can still edit this list of what we want to do. We just have to be careful to make sure that we don't remove something we told the community we were going to build, or, I mean, that's the danger. I mean, we need to make sure that if we get the community and say, this is the bond that we're going to do, that we don't remove stuff, and we really need to keep it, to be above board to the community. So that these numbers are definitely not locked in. So what would happen is if we decide to do a bond, we'll engage bond counsel who'll give us some wording on the 16th, the August 6th, before August 16th. So on our August 10th meeting, we would have a motion to call the election. Now that's the do or die decision. If you on the 10th you say we're going to call the election, then that is when you have decided to have a bond election. You can still, like I said, anyway up until November you can modify, you can clarify. Once in November, once there's an election, assuming the community was to pass the bond, then we wouldn't get the funds until January. So in January, then we would go out for RFPs and on these projects. And that's, we already have an architect, so that's going to cut a month down on the timeline from last time, but you're still talking two, maybe 3 months to do the RFPs to, first we'll go out there for a, what do they call it, the manager at risk. First we would go out to a manager at risk. And so then we would say, we would have them come in. That'll be the first RFP we would put out, is because we want to hire somebody who's a construction manager that's in charge of it. And the reason we do manager at risk is if they overshoot the budget, they eat the cost, not us. And so we're always going to do manager at risk. So we would hire a manager at risk. Then they would go out and they would take this list that we had developed and they would do RFPs and get contractors to bid on it and subcontractors. And then they would come back to us as the manager at risk and say, okay, this is how much it's going to cost. And then they're locked in on that cost. That's all the most it can cost the school district. The whole reason for doing a manager at risk. It does cost a little bit more because the manager at risk makes some money out of the deal too. But make sure that you don't have these huge overruns of costs, which we obviously can't afford. So then, so that whole process would take several months. So if we do it in August, we probably wouldn't start construction till late spring. So that's why we brought it to you, and that's this soon. Because really, the vast majority of this list is just renovate the elementary building, try to fix all those things we found. And so that's what we're trying to do to move forward. Sorry, got on my, talking about how the process works. Okay, box. So I will say, we went through the process of a committee. We did have each of the campuses went to talk to their people. Then they brought their wish list to us. We as a district met as a district committee, went through, developed the list. That was the list that we went and showed you all when we walked through all those buildings. That was this list. And then now, and just like last time we had a big list of things we wanted to do in the 2014 bond. We got the probable cost back and we went, ooh, we're gonna have to start scratching. And that's exactly what it is here. Because remember, we've already spent $1 million. We've actually spent over $1 million, but we did a reimbursement resolution for $1 million. So if we do a $5 million bond, that only leaves $4 million left for the stuff on here. So, and we think we can do the vast majority of it. We do, the building, the storage building, I think it's going to come in a lot cheaper too. I really do. $240,000 seems obscene. I know it's going to cost more than $50,000 because you have to. Schools, we just have to participate in rules that a normal person doesn't. But my guess is that everything will be cheaper. And part of the thing that would help us if we decide to do this bond is that material costs are going to be lower, we hope, by the time we actually get around to bidding it. And so these costs are current material costs. In February and March, like the price of wood is already starting to drop significantly. So maybe we get to do a lot more and we get to come back and we get to sit down together and say, hey, we have $600,000, $700,000 left. What do we want to add? And that would be a great position to be in. So, but I can't guarantee it. But we really need to, in order to call the meeting in August, we have got to engage a bond counsel. And so we need to make the decision, should we move forward? We still haven't made the decision to actually hold the bond, until August. Until you vote to call that election, the decision is not made. But whether or not, just like last time, do we have the architect drop the probable list now, or do we engage a bond counsel to draw up the notice of calling the bond? So.
Does anybody have any questions or concerns before we at least figure out what we need to do? Does anybody not want to proceed and figure it out? I mean, we're not saying we're gonna have a bond, we're just
That's
gonna
right.
get counsel to see what we can do. I mean, you've seen the prices, you know how much we've spent, you know how much we have in the bank. If we don't, it's gonna be pretty tough. So,
Well, if you don't, I mean, where we are now is we've got the money to finish the project that was the destruction area of the elementary that is now being reconstructed. And then you'll have about $500,000 to play with. And then the other 2.8 that you would have left has to stay in based on operating, 3 months operating for salaries and utilities. So, that would mark off a lot of this list without it. So, I would encourage you to do it. I know it's not something you want to put on your constituency, but as a board member, your goal is always to improve the district, and a lot of this in here needs to be done for just improvement. I know I've harped on the band hall more than probably any of the rest of this, just due to the fact that we've done things for athletics, but we haven't done things for fine arts, and so you're gonna have to just pick and choose. If you are handcuffed with funds, it makes it even harder to choose. And so, like Ms. Booth said, like Mr. Hines said, this doesn't handcuff you to making the decision to call a bond. It just allows Richard to go out and contact the council that has the legal side of our legal counsel is sitting right there, but he understands that we're talking about different counsel. He doesn't.
We don't do bond counsel anymore.
Yeah.
he didn't want to do bond counsel.
That's right. And so we have to have legal counsel and the contract manager at risk. We can start kind of seeing what's out there and go from there. So.
Well, also, I'll present to you, and I just didn't do it this time because I just didn't think about it until I started talking about it. I'll draw you up before we actually vote on to call the election. I'll draw up a bond timeline for you so that you can see exactly when everything would start to happen and what would happen when. And I'm sorry, I just haven't done that. As a matter of fact, I can draw that up and get that out to you probably next week.
Just pop an email.
I'm sorry, what?
Send it to an email.
Yes, sir.
So is everybody okay with him at least seeking counsel?
Well, and I will say on bond counsel, it doesn't actually cost us anything because they get their fees out of the bond. So it's not like it's going to cost us money. Now, if we don't do the bond, we decide not to call the election, there might be some minimal fees. But in going forward, both the bond counsel and you have to have a bond counsel and a financial advisor. Both of them get their fees out of the bond. So like say the bond is a $5 million bond, it'll actually be like a $5,300,000 bond, and bond counsel and the banks and the financial advisor all get that.
Everybody gets their money.
Yes.
Gets that little chunk of the bond, and it doesn't actually, we don't ever write a check to them. So.
Okay. So I'm gonna say we're good with you going ahead and getting your counsel.
Okay,
So.
thank you.
No, it's not an action, we just have to let him know that he can do it. Okay, so, sorry. Okay, I'm gonna confirm that we have a meeting, on the 10th, and that will be a budget workshop. And we'll talk more about the numbers for where we are on the construction and what we can do and what we can't do. On the 26th, we'll have a called meeting, and we'll talk about final budget before, or well, not before school starts, which is not my favorite thing, but close to when school starts.
And that's a public forum.
It is a public forum,
Right.
yes. And so then I need to know if anybody has decided for sure whether they're going to go to TASA TASB so that we can start reserving rooms. Is anybody for sure going to go? Everybody's ignoring.
Yeah.
You're going? Okay, Mike, are you?
Yeah, Mike's in.
Mike's in, I'm in, Logan, maybe, no?
I was trying to.
23rd, so
They're on the wrong
Okay.
month.
All right, Rusty's maybe, Doug's
Sure,
going.
I'm sure I can make it.
Okay, so we're just gonna go ahead and reserve rooms
For
for
everybody.
everybody, and then as it gets closer, we can always turn it back in if we don't.
You want single rooms or double
Double.
the guys up? You're on there, so.
Yeah, that's cool. We normally go double. Mary Lou and I were together last time,
That's
so
right.
it's not unprecedented. It's
And-
cheaper that way.
You don't have to have this next one, the delegate, yet, but you'll probably receive a packet here pretty soon,
Yeah.
so.
Okay, we'll think about it. It'll probably be Rusty and me, but we'll, no, they need to get their hours. It is. Okay, and then we were going to set a date for the team of 8 and the roles of responsibility and training. And we're gonna wait for just a little bit to set that date because we're gonna talk to Fred about when he has time in his busy schedule. And, so we'll set that and let y'all know, and we'll do it later. We're gonna go into closed session at 6:51. And
Can I say something right quick?
Go
I
ahead.
failed to mention both to the public and to the board that, I'm sorry, our restrooms are out of order. The city has cut us off of the water. They thought it was on our side, that the mayor cut us off to the water. But anyway, it's not, it's on the city side. They're working to repair it, but our restrooms are closed, and not, even our concession stand restrooms are closed, so I'm sorry. You probably have time to go home, go to the restroom, and come back,
get to know that.
if you want to come back.
Okay, so I'm going to call us out under 551.074 to deliberate the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public officer or employee, or to hear a complaint or charge against an officer or employee, and also under 551.071, a private consultation with the board's attorney. Thank y'all.
Time. What page is it?
Use my son's photo.
Yeah, that's not happening. I will forgive you later. Maybe.
It's true.
It is live now, yes.
What, I wasn't sure what you were.
You replaced your raise before? Yeah, I am,
I was like fishing.
And we requested.
Depends on which way your hand is.
Oh,
Yes,
oh,
they
yeah,
do.
those seats.
Just found out about it, just loaded
And, hey, and when people use the app or use the order online and leave a tip, that's when Creek gets a tip. Just saying.
Did you see, I think it was a KJ.
Huh? Creek works at Justin.
And they have an app. I didn't know they had an app.
So they get there the line.
I knew they were doing it.
Yeah, they're doing it on both.
App or on the website.
I did see
Sure you
that,
order.
he was right.
You see that?
Just like everywhere else, that's only goes to eat. $75.
Oh, that's crazy, I mean, that's how much those guys study and know the other two things.
The microphones are dead.
Oh, dang it.
Dead, is
Hate
it really
that.
dead like
Yeah,
that?
the amp's
You are
gone.
live though.
Oh, she kicked.
I think she kicked it, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
She did that here a while back.
Okay, well, we're
Kick the
live, so
switch.
we'll go, okay, so, we'll come back into open session at 8:05.
All right. I'd like to make a recommendation to offer Stephen Vanderpool a 2020-2021 probationary contract for a certified administrator subject to salary and assignment.
Okay, I have a recommendation. Do I have a motion?
I move to offer Stephen Vanderpool a 2021-2022 probationary contract for certified administrator subject to salary and assignment.
Okay, 2021,
Sorry, I said
2.
wrong. but-
All right, so I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Mike. And all in favor? No opposed, motion carries.
That's it.
Oh, okay. And,
I'll
Yeah,
make a
no.
recommendation.
Yeah. yeah, I make a recommendation. And I'll make a recommendation that we adjourn at 8:06. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Logan. All in favor? All right, thank you all very much.
If
If you'll go to the right where the date is,